So good morning all. Today we shall discuss the next important antimicrobial agent, that is sulfonamides. So this particular drug sulfonamides, these are said to be the first effective agents to treat the infection which is produced by bacteria which produces pus. So you can see on the slide, effective against pyogenic bacterial infection. That means the infections which are particularly produced by the pus forming bacteria. So these were the first effective agent which are said to be effective against this pyogenic bacteria. If you see the history, so this particular agent, they have been particularly obtained from or discovered from a dye that is Brontosil red, and this particular dye, it was discovered by the scientist as a Dromack to cure the infection of his daughter, and his daughter was suffering from streptococcal infection, and when it was used to treat that particular infection, it was found to be highly effective, and this particular Brontosil red was then further screened, and the active agent which was present in that particular dye, it was found to be sulfanilamide, which is said to be an active antibacterial agent. So these sulfonamides or sulfonamide agents, these are sulfa drugs. What are these? These are the sulfa drugs. However, they are seldom used now. That means their use is minimum. However, the use of this particular agent is still continued in developing countries. The main reason is the low cost and their efficacy in certain bacterial infections, particularly the trachoma and the urinary tract infection. Later on, many number, that means after the isolation of sulfanilamide from Brontosil, many synthetic sulfonamides were produced. All of the sulfonamides, remember, these are bacteriostatic in their action. That means they inhibit the growth. They don't kill the bacteria. They inhibit the growth of the bacteria. They were used extensively, but however, their use became limited, or their use has been declined mainly due to two reasons. First one is, that is the reason which we observe with most of the antibacterial agent, that is rapid emergence of bacterial resistance. This was the first reason due to which its use has been limited. And second reason is that this particular sulfonamide compounds, they possesses some of the severe adverse effects, and due to the availability of some safe and effective drugs, the use of these sulfonamides it has been limited due to this particular second reason. But however, there is an exception. It is not that sulfonamides or its use or the resistance or the availability of the safe drugs, but there are some exception with the sulfonamides, with the use of sulfonamides. So there is a very popular combination, that is cotrimoxazole, which is combination of sulfonamide, particularly the compound sulfamethoxazole from sulfonamide family, which is combined with trimethoprim. So this agent, it has an advantage, is that is cotrimoxazole, it is not resistant, and further this combination, it shows or it produces bactericidal effect. And there is one more combination, that is combination of sulfonamide with pyrimethamine. So if you see the structure of sulfonamide, so if you look at the components, so it consists of para-amino benzene ring. So particularly substitution at N1 position causes an changes in its solubility, potency, and pharmacokinetic property. While any changes at the N4 position, that is free amino group, this particular N4 free amino group, it is required or it possesses an antibacterial property. Now, the most important thing about this particular drug, sulfonamide, in order to show their action in the body, is that they are structural analog of PABA. They are structural analog of para-amino benzoic acid. So this is synthesized by many microorganisms, that is para-amino benzoic acid, and which is required for the production or synthesis of dihydrofolic acid, which is the essential cofactor for many bacteria to produce different proteins. So for timing, remember that this sulfonamide, they are structural analog of PABA, that is para-amino benzoic acid. Coming to the classification. So classification, if you'll see now, this particular classification is as per the book, that is Tripathi. So mainly it is divided into 4 types depending upon its duration of action. So short acting, that is which has an or whose action lasts for 4 to 8 hours. Example is sulfadiazine. Intermediate acting drugs which acts for 8 to 12 hours. Example is sulfamethoxazole. Long acting, whose action lasts for approximately 7 days, which are long acting. So the examples are sulfadoxine and sulfamethoxyrazine. And there are other drugs which have certain special purpose. Examples are sulfacetamide sodium, silver sulfadiazine, sulfasalazine, mafenide. Next, the drugs are classified by some other way also, that is short acting, intermediate acting, long acting. That is the orally absorbable drugs. Then orally non-absorbable drugs, examples are sulfasalazine, olasalazine, valsalazine. And there are topical agents. Many topical agents are available to treat variety of skin infection. So examples are silver sulfadiazine, mafenide, and sulfacetamide sodium. So this is the classification of different sulfonamides which are available to be used clinically. So coming to the mechanism of action, in broad manner, if you will see, sulfonamides, they inhibit the nucleic acid synthesis. So whatever the drugs which are used or which are available from this particular family, they inhibit the nucleic acid synthesis. So particularly or specifically, sulfonamides inhibit the synthesis of folates in bacterial organism. So this is what is the mechanism of action by which these drugs act. Further, at molecular level, if you see the mechanism of action of this drug, so in many organisms, dihydrofolic acid, in many organisms, dihydrofolic acid is synthesized from para-amino benzoic acid. It is synthesized from para-amino benzoic acid, pyridine, and glutamate. So in many organisms, dihydrofolic acid is synthesized from para-amino benzoic acid, pyridine, and glutamate. Now remember, all the sulfonamides, as we saw structurally, are structural analog of para-amino benzoic acid. And due to their structural similarity to PABA, the sulfonamides compete with this substrate. Due to structural analog of PABA, sulfonamides, they compete with this substrate for the bacterial enzyme dihydroteroic acid synthetase, or it is also called as folic acid synthesis. They thus inhibit the synthesis of bacterial dihydrofolic acid. and thereby the formation of essential cofactor. So this is what is the mechanism of action of sulfonamide. I am repeating. So this particular dihydrofolic acid, it is synthesized from PABA, pyridine and glutamate. How it is, or this particular sulfonamide, they compete with the substrate, that is PABA, for the bacterial enzyme dihydrotauroic acid synthetics. And due to that, the formation of dihydrofolic acid, it doesn't take place. And due to that, whatever the further conversion of dihydrofolic acid to tetrahydrofolic acid and further synthesis of different RNA, DNA, proteins, that formation, it is blocked, and due to that, the inhibition of growth of bacterial cell wall, it takes place. And this is how the sulfonamide shows their action. So this is what is the mechanism of action. If you will see again, so folic acid is very essential for the growth of bacteria, as it is a crucial for nucleic acid synthesis. Okay, so nucleic acid synthesis takes place due to folic acids. So many bacteria, they synthesize their own folic acid from PABA, that is para-aminobenzoic acid. So sulfonamide, being structural analog of PABA, enters the sequence in place of PABA. So in place of PABA, sulfonamide will act there as a substrate for that particular enzyme. So sulfonamide compete for the enzyme, that is dihydrotauroic acid synthetase, to create a non-functional analog of folic acid. And ultimately this is going to be of no use, and the growth ceases, and that is what is the bacteriostatic action which will be possessed the use of sulfonamide. Now remember here, humans absorb folic acid directly. So folic acid is also one of the essential metabolite which is required for the human cells, also for the functioning of the human cells, or for the formation of nucleic acid. But folic acid is directly absorbed from the diet, from the food which we eat. So sulfonamides are selectively toxic to only bacteria and not to the host cells. So this particular part, it has to be remembered properly. Now coming to the pharmacokinetics in common of the sulfonamides. So first, that is absorption. If you see, so they are rapidly and well absorbed orally. So their absorption when taken through oral route is not a problem. Distribution throughout the body is good. Most important is that they process blood-brain barrier and the placenta. They accumulates in the prostatic fluid. Okay, so they accumulates in the prostate gland. So due to that, they are used to treat prostatitis, inflammation of the prostate gland. They are used due to the accumulation of this sulfonamides in the prostatic fluid. Additionally, they also get concentrated in the bladder or in the urine. So they are also highly effective to treat urinary tract infection. If you see its metabolism, so particularly they are metabolized by acetylation pathway, and acetylated metabolites are active, but still some contribute to show secondary effect. Now, one thing has to be remembered over here, which is actually the side effect of this drug, is that these sulfonamides, they are less soluble in acidic urine, and due to that, the precipitation of this drug takes place, which causes crystalluria, and it then leads to renal toxicity. Excretion is by through kidney by glomerular filtration. And one thing to be noted over here is that more lipid soluble drugs are highly reabsorbed. Highly lipid soluble drugs will be absorbed to a greater extent, and due to that, whatever the pH of this particular drug is there, it is also going to be prolonged. Antibacterial spectrum. So these drugs, they are bacteriostatic. Then bactericidal concentration can be attained only in the urine, with not all drugs, with some of the drugs. But again, this particular action is very negligible. The reason they become bactericidal in the urine is that they get concentrated in the urine. They are effective against gram-positive as well as gram-negative bacteria. So coming to the further antibacterial spectrum, so you can see the sensitive organisms which are susceptible by the action of this particular sulfonamides include, or you can see on your screen, and there are some resistant organisms who get resist by the action of this particular sulfonamides. Like many drugs, these sulfonamides, they also possesses resistance, and the different mechanism due to which the resistance is seen is, first one is overproduction of PAP. So microorganisms, what do they do is that because as we have seen in the mechanism that sulfonamides are structural analog of PABA, so they compete for this particular substrate by the enzymatic action of dihydrofolate synthesis. So what the bacteria have started to do is that they have started to overproduce PABA, and due to that, whatever the normal folic acid, dihydrofolic acid formation is there, it takes place. Second mechanism is altered nature of dihydrotauroic acid synthetase. So whatever the enzyme which act as a substrate for the drug sulfonamides, so some alteration has been produced by the bacteria in the structure of this particular enzyme. Third is loss of permeability. So this drug, bacteria have brought certain changes in their structure due to which it is not able to penetrate in the bacterial cell wall to a larger extent. And there might be certain alternative pathway also which have been developed by bacteria for the folic acid synthesis. Clinical uses. So if they are used orally, so they are particularly used to treat acute uncomplicated urinary tract infection. Next, they are used for, or they are the third choice drug for certain infection or certain diseases like nocardiasis. Nocardiasis is a disease caused by bacteria found in soil and water. And this particular disease can affect the lungs, brain, and skin. That is nocardiasis. Then next it is used for treating chancroid, which is an infection due to Haemophilus ducreyi. It is one of the sexually transmitted disease caused by bacteria, and it is characterized by painful necrotizing genital ulcers. So genital ulcers are found in chancroid. Lymphogranuloma, which is found by this chlamydia, which affects the lymph, and granulation takes place in the lymph region. Then oral non-absorbable drugs, particularly the sulfasalazine, is a drug of choice for ulcerative colitis. Ulcerative colitis, inflammation of the colon. Okay. So that is treated with this sulfasalazine. Sulfasalazine is also one of the important drugs to treat rheumatoid arthritis. With the topical agents, when they are to be used topically, these drugs are also very popular to treat different ophthalmic related problems like trachoma. So trachoma is a bacterial infection that affects the eyes. So it is one of the contagious disease. It is also used to treat bacterial conjunctivitis. So for these two purposes, sodium sulfacetamide is a drug of choice. And another drug which is used topically, that is silver sulfadiazine, and it is this topic, it is preferred over mefenamide. So this silver sulfadiazine, it is either as a prophylactic agent, or it is also used to treat infections which are produced due to burns, and also it is active against Pseudomonas bacteria. So these are the different clinical uses of these sulfonamides. Coming to the adverse effects. So first adverse effect, which we have already discussed, that is crystalluria and renal toxicity. So why this is? Because this drug, that is, it is whatever the drug is there. First, we saw that it is metabolized by acetylation, and these metabolites are less soluble in acidic urine. They then precipitates in the kidney and renal tubules and causes crystalluria. But however, this can be minimized by taking plenty of fluids and alkalizing the urine. So this particular adverse effect can be overcome with these two factors. Next adverse effect is hypersensitivity reactions. So rashes, especially at the mucocutaneous junctions, are produced. Then it leads to Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which I already told you previously that it is caused. It is an skin infection which is caused by unpredictable adverse reaction to certain medication. It can also sometimes be caused by an infection. So this particular Stevens-Johnson syndrome, it begins with flu-like symptoms, followed by red or purple rash that spreads and forms blisters. And later on, the affected skin eventually dies and peels off. Next, under hypersensitive reaction is eosinophilia, drug fever, exfoliative dermatitis, which is nothing but the widespread erythema and scaling of the skin. Next adverse effect is hemolysis, lysis of heme, that is what is hemolysis, and it particularly occurs in patients with glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency, which is one of the hereditary condition in which the red blood cells break down, that is hemolysis, when the body is exposed to certain drugs. Then it causes neutropenia, that is decrease in the count of neutrophil agranulocytosis, similar to neutropenia, and thrombocytopenia, where there is decrease in the platelet count. Fourth adverse effect with the use of sulfonamides is, that is kernicterus. Kernicterus, particularly in the neonates, small children. So what is kernicterus? It is a type of brain damage which happens due to high levels of bilirubin in the baby's blood. So kernicterus is a brain damage which happens due to high levels of bilirubin in the baby's blood. Now what happens is that whenever the sulfonamides are given, especially in the premature infants or in the neonates, it displaces bilirubin from protein binding site. And then this displaced bilirubin, it passes through the blood-brain barrier and it gets deposited in the area of the brain, particularly the basal ganglia and subthalamic ganglia. And this, due to that, there is elevated level of this bilirubin in the brain of the neonates, and due to that, it leads to kernicterus. Other adverse effects include nausea, vomiting, epigastric pain, and hepatitis, inflammation of the liver. So sulfonamides, these particular drugs, they, as initially I told you, that they are seldom used now due to the adverse effects, and second reason is the resistance to most of the drugs. So in order to overcome, later on, a combination of sulfonamide and trimethoprim was introduced, which was found to be highly effective in treating large number of infections. So it was introduced in 1969. It is a rational fixed dose drug dose combination. Now remember, when we say rational, it means we can say it is a proper, it is approved, it is authorized fixed dose combination. So when two drugs are to be combined, one has to check that whether that particular combination is rational. So in this case, it is yes rational. So drug from sulfonamide class which is used in this combination, that is cotrimoxazole, is sulfamethoxazole, which is combined with trimethoprim, and this particular combination is bactericidal. So if we see trimethoprim versus sulfamethoxazole, so trimethoprim, it is chemically diaminopyrimidine, which is related to anti-malarial drug, while sulfamethoxazole, it is intermediate acting drug which is structurally similar to that of an para-amino-benzoic acid. If you see the mechanism of action, now see here there is one has to focus more. So MOA of trimethoprim is that it inhibits bacterial dihydrofolate reductase, while sulfamethoxazole, it inhibits folate synthetase. So dual action on the same pathway is taken place whenever this combination is given, and due to that, this particular combination is found to be highly effective, which shows bactericidal effect. So pharmacokinetics, if we'll see, almost whatever the pharmacokinetic parameters, whatever the T half of the drug is, there is almost same. So why it is rational? Because both compounds have similar half-life of approximately 10 hours. When two bacteriostatic drugs are given, they produce bactericidal action. Third is the combination has a wider antibacterial spectrum. Most importantly is that whenever the combination is used, it delays the development of bacterial resistance. It delays the development of bacterial resistance. So if you see the mechanism of action, so cotrimoxazole, this combination, it inhibits the nucleic acid synthesis. How this is done? So you can see over here. So already we have discussed about the mechanism of action of sulfamethoxazole, which inhibits, which is a structural analog of a PABA, and which acts as a substrate for this particular enzyme, that is dihydrotauroic acid synthetase. So this is where this sulfamethoxazole drug is going to act. After that, dihydrotauroic acid, which is getting converted to dihydrofolic acid, and further dihydrofolic acid, it is converted to tetrahydrofolic acid by the enzyme, that is dihydrofolate reductase. Now this drug, that is trimethoprim, it particularly inhibits the enzyme, that is dihydrofolate reductase. So one drug, it acts at this particular point, that is it inhibits folic acid synthetase, and the drug, second drug, that is trimethoprim, it inhibits dihydrofolate reductase. Due to that, whatever the antibacterial spectrum of this particular combination, it becomes more pronounced, more effective, with least resistance. So if you see the spectrum of activity of this combination for cotrimoxazole, so all organisms, many of the organisms are sensitive. So effectiveness of this drug against this particular drug is also increased. Then, if at all, if there is any mechanism of resistance to this particular combination, so it is mostly through plasmid mediated activation of the dihydrofolate reductase enzyme. So any changes, any alteration in the structure of that particular enzyme, it may lead to the resistance. However, the resistance with the combination is slow to develop as compared to the drug alone. So cotrimoxazole is still used now. Anyway, its popularity has been decreased. The reason again is that newer antibiotics with least adverse effects have been introduced. But however, it is yet a drug of choice to treat many infections. So first one, cotrimoxazole, it is used to treat urinary tract infection. So it is used to treat acute cystitis. So cystitis is an inflammation of the bladder. Inflammation of the bladder where part of your body becomes irritated, red or swollen. So one tablet twice daily for 3 to 10 days. That is what is the dosing which is been given for this particular acute cystitis, or single dose therapy with 4 tablets. Then next, it is used to treat prostatitis, inflammation of the prostate gland, both for acute and chronic prostatitis. So for acute, 1 tablet twice daily for 3 weeks, and for chronic, 1 tablet twice daily for 6 to 12 weeks. And remember here, if patient is allergic to sulfonamide, if there is any renal toxicity, if there is any crystalluria, if there is any Stevens-Johnson syndrome, neutropenia. So if a patient is allergic, trimethoprim can be given alone to treat this urinary tract infection, including acute cystitis and prostatitis. The next is used to treat respiratory tract infection, including upper respiratory tract infection, lower respiratory tract infection, chronic bronchitis, sinusitis, and otitis media. So it is especially used to treat infection caused by gram-positive cocci and Haemophilus species. So 1 double strength tablet twice a day is advised over here. Third use, it is used to treat bacterial diarrhea and dysentery. So particularly infections which are caused like acute gastroenteritis, Traveler's diarrhea or cholera due to Escherichia coli, Shigella, non-typhoid Salmonella, Yersinia. So this, to treat this cotrimoxazole is found to be effective. So 1 double strength tablet twice a day for 7 days is advisable over here. However, fluoroquinolones are the drug of choice to treat this dysentery, diarrhea, but in certain situations where if a patient, if he is allergic to fluoroquinolones, in that situation cotrimoxazole is a valuable alternative. Then it is used to treat pneumocystitis jirovecii, which is an bacteria which causes pneumonia in neutropenic and AIDS patient. Neutropenic means patient whose neutrophil count is less, which is particularly seen in pneumonia patient and AIDS patient. So high doses of cotrimoxazole is prophylactic as well as therapeutic. So it can be used as a prophylactic for prophylactic purpose, as well as if at all if infection has been seen or occurred in that patient, so it is also, or it has an therapeutic value. So it is drug of choice for pneumonia due to pneumocystitis jirovecii. So for treatment 1 double strength tablet 4 times a day for 2 to 3 weeks, and for prophylactic purpose 1 double strength tablet daily. That is what is seen. Next, this drug, it is also found to be effective for treating certain sexually transmitted diseases like cancroid, which is I told you already that it is one of the sexually transmitted disease which causes painful necrotizing genital ulcers. Then it is used to treat gonorrhea, non-specific urethritis, and lymphogranuloma. So 1 double strength tablet twice daily for 14 days is the advised dose. So in this case, it is the third choice of drug. Then it is used to treat next bacterial infection, that is nocardiasis, which we already discussed. Then it is used to treat typhoid. It is used to treat melioidosis, which is also called as an Whitmore's disease, which is one of the infectious diseases that can infect humans and animals. So the melioidosis, it is caused by bacterium Burkholderia pseudomallei. So intravenous cotrimoxazole preparations are also available in 5% dextrose is the preferred to treat moderate to severe pneumonia is caused by Pseudomonas jirovecii, and shigellosis, typhoid fever, nocardiasis, and septicemia. Adverse effect seen with sulfonamide can be seen with codriamoxazole also. Additionally, nausea, vomiting, headache, and stomatitis can be seen. Rashes can be seen. Folate deficiency only in patients with marginal folate levels. Okay, not all, but those who have less folate level, in them this folate deficiency can occur. And one more, that is rare type of an adverse effect, like blood dyscrasias is observed in certain patients. So blood dyscrasias is one of the hematological adverse effect which results due to imbalance between the certain constituents which are present in the blood. Like whatever the constituents which are present in the blood, if there is an imbalance in them, this blood dyscrasias is found to develop with the use of an cotrimoxazole. The contraindications with cotrimoxazole is that first of all, it is avoided in pregnancy. So the most important reason we saw, that is whatever the sulfonamide drugs is there, they shows kernicterus, they increases the what we say level of bilirubin in the brain. So that is one of the reasons why this cotrimoxazole is avoided in pregnancy. And second reason is that this trimethoprim, it is an antifolate. So due to that being antifolate, because folate is one of the important constituent which is required for the pregnant women for the development of developing fetus in her womb. So theoretically, it can show teratogenic risk. And if it is given near term, it may cause methemoglobinemia and neonatal hemolysis. So methemoglobinemia is nothing but a blood disorder in which an abnormal amount of methemoglobin, a type of protein, is produced. Then next contraindication of this drug is uremia. So uremia is nothing but it is a condition involving abnormally high levels of waste product in the blood. Second, it may lead to greater risk of bone marrow toxicity, particularly if it is to be given to the elderly patient. So it may cause, like you can see, bone marrow hypoplasia, that is, it can decrease the formation of red blood cells which is formed in the bone marrow. It may lead to fever, rash, and it may cause this particular adverse effect, particularly in AIDS patient, if they are suffering from an infection of Pseudomonas jirovecii. Interaction, only one interaction is there with the use of cotrimoxazole, is that if they are given or if they are combined with diuretics, there are chances of higher incidence of thrombocytopenia. Both of these drugs, they have individually that they causes a decrease in the platelet count. So if they are combined together or if they are given together, they will cause a higher incidence of decreased platelet count, that is thrombocytopenia. So this is all about this sulfonamide